Hi, very good day to everyone. Today, I'm going to share with you about the research title, which is called The Applications of Mayer's Multimedia Learning Theory to Digital Presentation Tools, PRESI, for Industrial Design Program in Higher Education. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm the first author. My name is Teo Pei Kian, and my co-researcher is Ms. Tan Su Hui. So let me introduce with you what is the concept of industrial design. The concept of industrial design, we call it as ID, refers to innovation in all its forms, and some examples of how it contributes to innovation are enhancing the products with minor additions, like how to differentiate the products with the different looks and also the functions, at the same time using the technology to create the products. So this is what we call industrial design. For this background of the study, I would like to share with you is, traditionally, all of us know that the design process is considered as one of the most essential teaching materials as is presented through traditional presentation tools like leaders, interactions, and also the students are less engaged. This is the statements come from the Thomas in 2015. And once theories, we call it as the Mayer's theory, which is stated as MML theory, is a set of design principles that is derived from cognitive theory of multimedia learning. And Chow and pointed that student engagement has been proven to increase when using digital presentation tools in the lecture. And lecturers are able to use the tools like the PRESI to develop more interactive and user-friendly presentation tools. So for this study, right, we aim to the MML theory in PRESI is a potential method to improve the information delivery and teaching, especially for ID education, industrial design education. For these research objectives, we have two. The first is to develop a prototype of PRESI with MML theory for ID program as lecturing tools. And the second is to investigate the effect of integrating MML in PRESI on students' engagement in the learning of industrial design process. So now, let me brief you and introduce what is the definitions of PRESI. PRESI is a kind of like the web base of the presentation tools for creating like the presentation. It is quite similar to other presentation software like the Microsoft PowerPoint, but it offers some unique features that make it good alternative. As a web-based application, PRESI gives users with a learning opportunity to collaboratively edit slides online with their peers. And now, let me explain to you what's the definitions of Mayer's multimedia learning. So we have actually for the Mayer's multimedia learning theory has 12. For this study, we just use the 6 of the principles to merge into the PRESI presentation tools. So the first is the Concurrence Principle. Based on these principles, learner's working memory is clogged with irrelevant details that hinder the learning process. In such a situation, the learner may be exposed to a concise narrative animations or a similar lesson alongside interesting. And the second is the signaling principle. What's the meaning of signaling principle? Signaling principle, it is noted that multimedia learning materials are more effective when cues are added that direct students' attention towards relevant components of the material or note how the content is organized. And the third is redundancy principle. Mayer in 2005 argues that students learn better when the same information is not presented in multiple formats. Accordingly, redundant information interferes more with learning than facilitate it. The term redundancy refers to the presentations of identically information in multiple forms to excessive collaborations. And number 4 is spatial contiguity principle. This principle suggests that when students are exposed to related words and pictures close together rather than far apart, they are more likely to learn more deeply. It is better for students to learn from presentation slides when the associated words and pictures are near each other rather than far apart on the page or screen. And number 5 is segmenting principle. In May 2009 study, learners performed better on record tests when they were able to control their pace. By breaking down the materials into the smaller pieces, the lesson can be pacified by learners themselves. In order to ensure that there's not too much information packed into one lesson. And the last for this study is modality principle. For modality principles, right, the other side, the other call it as the split attention principle. Basically, if there are too many visuals and too much text, learners will become overwhelmed. However, if they see visuals and hear spoken words or animation, they will learn better. Students who view an animation depicting the like the informations or the lightings accompanied by the on-screen text with the same words as the narration generated about 50% more useful solutions on a subsequent problem-solving transfer text than generated about the 50% like what I mentioned just now. Did the students viewing the same animations with the same on-screen text? This phenomenon is known as the split attention effect. So it's for this modality principle. And now, come to the research method. For this research, right, is using the prototype development. So for the prototype development, is the development of the digital presentation tool, which is called Prezi, starts with the requirement analysis. And in this stage, right, the requirements are defined in detail. During the process, the 6 design principle, which is derived from cognitive theory of multimedia learning that I explained just now, will be analyzed and used as a guideline for designing the prototype. After that, the design principles will be applied according to the features of the presentation tool, as it is different from the perspective of use of different media. Like, for example, text, pictures, video, animations, and sound. The final design of the prototype will be refined according to the contents of the ID program until all the requirements are achieved. Now, come to the finding of prototype. After the developed prototype is out, and then for this finding, now I'm going to present to you what is the finding about the Prezi. When we put all the MML theory, the 6 theories into the Prezi development. So you can see that from the prototypes, okay, it's showing. So the first is the concurrence principle. So you can see that it states that people learn best when irrelevant and distracting materials are not included. So simple text and simple visual that relate directly to the learning topic are used to express them. So you can see that starts from the questions, and then we put the pictures to represent it. And the second principle is the signaling principle. The signaling principles, you can see that the prototypes, the 2 pictures is showing that humans will learn best when they are shown exactly what to pay attention to on the screen. Therefore, just highlight important words to point out the important informations. So you can see that, like for example, the second, the relationship of product, okay, to man, object, and space. And then we come out the figures, okay, like graph or anything, right? You can represent it so that people can get the meaning faster. And then the third is the redundancy principle. You can see that these two images from the prototypes, okay, we can see that people learn the best narration and graphics, not narration, graphics, and text. When graphics and text are included, make the text minimal. If let's say you think that the text is compulsory, is necessary, then make the text minimal. Then the graphics, okay, or the narrations, make it bigger. And the following is the spatial contiguity principle. So from the image, you can see that, so the design keep related text and graphics physically close together to let the learners earlier to process the information using less energy to describe the meaning. And the number 5 is the segmenting principle. These two images, you can see that broken up learning into smaller and bite-sized chunks to make sure that no one lesson, slide, or video has too much information packed in it. Therefore, learners can control the pace of their learning. And the last is the modality principle. From the prototypes, you can see that humans learn best from visuals and spoken words than from visual and printed words. Therefore, limit the amount of text and rely more on visuals. Just use words to define key terms, list steps, or provide directions. So all of these are the findings for the MMML theory into the digital presentation tools, Prezi. That's all for my presentation today. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attention.